This is from Politico this week by Michael Grunwald. That I got to say is probably the only one of these pieces that seeks to sort of go out of DC and New York and find Trump voters that I find at all useful, because it does capture the people who are actually Trump's base of support.
Exactly.
Are incredible, are wealthy retirees.
Wealthy.
Yeah, definitely.
Everywhere, that is his biggest area of support in the election and since.
These people are not working class by any stretch of the imagination. Let's just get into this. This is called Generation Pickleball.
Ugh.
Welcome to Florida's political Tomorrowland. This is a profile of a gigantic gated retirement community just outside of Orlando called The Villages. That honestly should just be called The Village, because it's like that spooky movie, and there's a twist ending. The twist ending being that they're actually living in the modern world. That's just as true for this segment of the population.
Oh, come on.
Did I just spoil that movie for you, Virgil?
He's dead the whole time, by the way, in Sixth Sense.
Okay, so there is some amazing color in this story. And it's also, again...
White. Predominantly.
Well, I mean, it's also incredible. It's incredibly telling about the mindset of the Trump voter. Like we said, how can you hear audio of kids screaming and being separated from their parents and be like, good, more of that, yes, please. The answer lies in this article. So I'm just going to begin here. The Villages is America's largest retirement community, a carefully planned, meticulously groomed dreamscape of gated subdivisions, wall-to-wall golf courses, adults-only pools, and old-fashioned town squares. It's advertised as Florida's friendliest hometown, and it's supposed to evoke a bygone era of traditional values when Americans knew their neighbors, respected their elders, and followed the rules. It has the highest concentration of military veterans of any metropolitan area without a military base. It has strict regulations enforcing the uniformity of homes, as well as the people living in them. No families with children except to visit. And it is Trump country, a reliably Republican, vocally patriotic, almost entirely white enclave that gave the president nearly 70% of the vote.
Calling it a metropolitan area is kind of loose, because it is just a giant sprawling suburb, but it has been growing nearly exponentially. In 2010, it was like 60,000 or so people living there. Now it's well over 100,000. It's nearly tripled in size since then.
It says here, older voters are America's most reliable voters, which is why baby boomer boom towns like the Villages represent the most significant threat to a potential Democratic wave in Florida in 2018, and the most significant source of Republican optimism for many years to come. Here's where it gets to the nub of it. Trump supporters who get the most media attention tend to be economically anxious laborers in economically depressed factory towns. But in Florida, economically secure retirement meccas like the Villages are the real reason Trump won in 2016, and why the state's Republicans, who have controlled Tallahassee for 2 decades, think they can avoid a blue wave in 2018. It makes sense that they're coming to the Villages because this leisure-class Sunbelt oasis is a lot more pleasant than the dying working-class Rust Belt towns that journalists usually visit on Trump voter safaris. It feels like a 40-square-mile cruise ship or a college campus without required classes. It has enough golf courses to play a different one every week of the year, and more than 100 miles of golf cart trails that keep traffic congestion to a minimum.
It's like back to school if everyone was Rodney Dangerfield.
It isn't exactly luxurious, but it's comfortable with a median home price above $250,000. So again, keep that in mind there. These are people who have wealth. They own homes. They golf every fucking day.
This is like if an ancient description of paradise was made by the people who make those memes, like how to get respect from me. 1, wear a belt with your pants. 2, this is
tuck your t-shirt in.
Yeah, there is no way that these people aren't doing child sacrifices to Jimmy Buffett songs. Like, this is the most horrifying thing we've had read in a while.
And it's worth pointing out, all of this is owned by one company.
Jesus.
The Shinra company.
Here's another telling detail. They talked to a guy, Larry Harmon, who's a former Chicago area stockbroker who runs one of their little investment clubs. He says, I keep telling people, come on, Trump has nothing to do with your portfolio. Harmon, a former Marine, is much more excited about Trump's crusade against the National Football League.
Holy, this fucking dumb hog.
Players taking a knee, that's bullshit, Harmon told me. I'm with the president 100%. throw your hand over your heart and respect our flag. So it's getting
This guy should live in a kennel. Like, there is nothing that the world gain. I know I was just saying, like, we need a program before we can marginalize people, but now, like, hearing this guy, it's like, no, this guy should live. This guy should be naked and live in a kennel. This guy is just a fucking dullard. Like, the only reason he's voting is because Kaepernick kneeled. This guy is... you could just amuse him with like a Kong filled with peanut butter every day. This fucking idiot.
Oh, there's more. There's way more.
It gets so much better. But I like that was what it gets is like this guy is smart enough to know that like the fucking stock market doesn't really care who's fucking president. He would be raking it in if Hillary Clinton was still president. But he loves Trump because he's willing to stand up to those goddamn NFL players.
All right, so when was it? This guy was probably in the Marines during like Grenada.
Yeah.
I didn't strain my MCL for you to kneel, you piece of shit.
So he goes, it's not a coincidence that the Villages supports the nation's largest American Legion post, or that the signs on its bar declared no NFL games on post televisions.
Oh my god.
So listen, Republicans outnumber Democrats by more than 2-1 here. And in interviews, they generally express support for Trump's tax cuts, as well as his hands-off approach to Medicare and Social Security. That has helped blunt the perennial Democratic pitch to seniors. Choose us because Republicans are coming for your checks. But what really attracted them to Trump were issues that had little to do with their pocketbooks or their daily lives, like his opposition to sanctuary cities, or his insistent rhetoric about strength, or his attacks on Muslims, MS-13, and protests by black athletes. They feel like Trump is on their side in a cultural war against cop haters, their perception of scheming foreigners, global warming alarmists, and other politically correct avatars of disorder and decline. They thought President Barack Obama was on the other side, standing with transgender activists, welfare freeloaders, and Islamic terrorists. When Trump vows to make America great again, they sense that he means more like the Villages.
Oh, let's hope so.
Yeah, these are the people you alienate by talking about bathrooms. And good, I want them to be alienated from the mainstream.
Yeah, if like just tomorrow Trump like saw a Gangland episode that impressed him and he's like, actually, we're bringing every member of MS-13 over. It could be double citizens and they get 10 times. Like just for some reason, like their lives wouldn't be affected. These people are more likely to be beaten to death with a golf club over like some weird mishap that started on kink.com than any gang shooting ever.
It really is like living in a village where there's law and order and people take care of each other, said Baxley, who owns 3 funeral homes in the Villages. Boom times for him.
God.
Trump tapped into that sense that the rest of America isn't like that anymore, and some people don't have to follow the rules.
This is Jonestown for people who smashed Dixie Chicks records. That's what this is. Like this is like a cult.
And again, is there a fact check out there or a civil, polite, reasoned argument that could reach these people? They're telling you point blank, I don't give a shit about the economy or any policy that might affect my life. I care that he's standing up to largely imaginary evil villains that lurk just outside the walls of my gated village.
I think it's important for people with like a certain political program to believe in the ability of people to change, but these fucking people have always been like this and they will always be like this.
What's so monstrous to me, in addition to all of the myriad just disgusting exemplars of racism and hierarchy, is that they think they're defending some city on a hill, and it's this. This is the culture that they're willing to kill the world for. They would see a million people stacked, like corpses stacked on the fucking Mexican border to protect what is essentially a giant open air TGI Fridays that's going to be underwater in 50 years anyway. Yeah, that is the fucking world that they're willing to just countenance